Hello, I'm Vincent Price. Today I'm going to take you on a slight tour of the Mediterranean, taking in Greece, Morocco, with a surreptitious dip into Spain. These are the places that the people of Europe and North America go for their holidays. Oh, not to see the country, but to stay in standardized hotels overlooking standardized beaches with standardized people on them, perhaps taking a small amount of time to visit local shops for a few local souvenirs made in Japan. But you ask them what they ate there, and they'll reel off a list that sounds pretty much what they eat at home. I can tell you it's all very depressing. People seem to have a fear of strange-sounding food, but today I want to put your fears at rest. Of course, the food tastes different, but not so different. And everything we make today, you can make. And to get the ingredients to make these dishes, you won't have to go any further than your local supermarket. Now, our first dish is what is called in Danish kaldoma, and in Greece would be called dolmadis. Basically, it's cabbage leaves stuffed with meat and served on a bed of herb rice, which in this case comes from America. The idea of cooking leaves stuffed with meat and rice must be a very ancient one indeed. You find well-seasoned tidbits such as lamb wrapped in vine and cabbage leaves, and even sometimes beet leaves in Greece and Turkey and throughout Central Europe, Russia, Scandinavia. All have a long tradition, and the reason must be that they are very good. One or two of these cabbages, rolled with meat per person, makes an unusual and delicious first course. Now, as I said, I'm going to turn the finished dish out onto a bed of herb rice. You cook herb rice in basically the same way as you cook rice ordinarily, just the same way you cook ordinary long grain rice, using the same proportions of 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water and 1 teaspoon of salt. Therefore, for 1½ cups of rice, I'm boiling 3 cups of water. You see, I'm a mathematician too. To make herb rice, at this stage, we also put in a thick slice of lemon. And we put the rice, the lemon in, and the rice, cover the dish, and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. And don't peek. It ought to be done in 15 minutes. Now, I have here what used to be a large cabbage, which was cooked and cored. I've also taken off about 18 of the leaves, of the outer leaves, and I'm going to need a few more, about 4 of them. And so I have cut out the hard part of the leaf so as to make the rolling of them easier. Now, the stuffing for these leaves is equally simple. Firstly, the rice. I've simmered 2 tablespoons of rice in ½ a pint of milk for about 40 minutes, and I've allowed it to cool, and here it is. It's kind of mushy, but you'll see why. It's kind of a binder. You should use the same American long grain rice for this as for the herb rice. Now, you mix together the ½ pound of ground pork and a ½ pound of ground veal, and 1 teaspoonful of salt. I like this coarse ground salt. It's a lot saltier and much tastier for some reason. And then gradually you beat into this mixture 5 egg whites. Very, very slowly at first, and there vigorously. You will see that it really does work. There we go. Now here it goes. And you beat it, and then you add into this mixture the rice. And then you beat it until it makes a lovely sort of smooth paste. There we go, and you can beat it a little faster, being careful not to whip it out of the bowl. And then you have the mixture with which you stuff the cabbage leaves. Now, you add a quarter of a teaspoonful of ground white pepper. I love white pepper. And 1 medium onion grated. There you go. 1 medium onion grated. Now you mix it all together very well, and you can add a few herbs if you like. I like thyme, and, well, I like marjoram and sweet basil. After you've got it mixed and it's kind of a paste, then you put about a a small tablespoonful into the middle of one of these leaves, and you wrap it up very carefully. You can also save some smaller leaves if you want, and then you place them into the dish. Now, I've already made the major part of the dish, so I'll just put one in there. Now, what you do is you take a half pint here of good, rich beef stock and spread it all over the rolls like that, getting them nice and moist. And then one of the surprises is, on top of this, you put a teaspoonful or more of treacle. You probably need more, and sort of spread it around on each one of the little rolls of meat and rice and cabbage. You'll find that as you cook this, the treacle will melt and make a lovely sauce, and it also gives it a very distinctive flavor. Now, you should have preheated the oven to Mark 5 of gas or 375 degrees electric. And they should be cooked for about half an hour and then turned over and cooked for another period or approximately the same length. As it happens, I have some in the oven at the moment, and I'm going to turn them over. So I'll just leave those over there and show you what these look like when they're all ready. Here we go. Here they are, and they just need to be sort of rolled over so that they will brown on the other side, being careful not to mess up the leaves. And now you have these lovely little rolls all turned over there. Put them back in the oven, let them cook for approximately the same amount of time, and you will see in just a few minutes you will have your cabbage rolls. I want to move around the Mediterranean now to the North African state of Morocco to make a dish called tagine. This is a dish which can be made from chicken or lamb, and in either way it is served with almonds and raisins and spread over with honey. Oh, it's delicious. I'm going to make it today with a leg of lamb. Moroccan meals consist chiefly of well-cooked meat, simmering in spice sauces heavy with oil and butter, sauces in which ginger and pepper mingle with honey and sugar. In their cookery, the role of vegetables is reduced to a discreet accompaniment. Now, this tradition of cooking, it's said, was brought from the Orient and was integrated with the simple meals of the Berbers and ends in a highly civilized cuisine to be found today among the bourgeois of Fez, which is the gastronomic capital of Morocco. On the stove, I have a large pan with half an inch of oil warming in the bottom. Now you can see that, about a half an inch of oil. You need this. I'm going to add some more chopped onion. Onion is a very integral part of this dish. Quite a lot of chopped onion. And a squish or two of garlic from a press. The garlic press is a marvelous, marvelous invention because you get the absolute essence of it. And you sort of scrape off what's left on the press there. Mix them together in the warm oil. And then you add a teaspoon each of salt. Here's our salt, again this wonderful ground salt. Some white pepper again. White pepper is good because then it doesn't leave specks in the food, they tell me. There we go, and here's this thing, there. Get that, rattle them up a little bit. And then the secret of this cooking is saffron. It's a very expensive herb. If you want to call it an herb, it really comes from the crocuses of Spain. And you can use as much as you can afford. The recipe here calls for a teaspoonful, but a little bit will do a lot, and it will make all a lovely, lovely yellow color, and at the same time, it gives a very dry and distinct flavor to this meat. Now you take your leg of lamb, on which you can leave a little fat, because remember, all Moroccan cooking is quite heavy with grease, and you put it in the pan, and you roll it around a little bit so that your roast gets completely covered with this glorious mixture of saffron and onion and garlic. And then you brown it for a few minutes on both sides, and then you put in just about a cup of water. That's all you need. Put it in there. After it's browned, I'm skipping that point, and you put on your good, heavy, solid lid, and then you let it sit there for about an hour and a half, and you baste it occasionally. Then, when you have that all taken care of, you make the sauce for the lamb. And here is the special thing. We have here about 8 ounces of raisins, which have been soaking for about 10 minutes in water to give them back their vitality and to swell them up a bit. You put them into a good large saucepan in which there is also another ½ inch of heated oil. And then you put in about 4 coarsely chopped onions, and the surprise of this mixture is a heaping tablespoonful of cinnamon. Now, don't forget, that is one of the things that makes this an exotic dish. You'll be surprised by the time you get through that the cinnamon has almost disappeared. It isn't nearly as strong as you would expect that amount of it to be. In Morocco, of course, the food is generally eaten with the fingers. And when Moroccans have people to come in for company, they put the dish on a large plate, the cooking on a large plate, in the middle of the table, and then the guests help themselves by taking off the meal mouthful by mouthful. This sauce we're making is scooped up then with great big pieces of bread. Wonderful flat bread. It's a very necessary accompaniment to all Moroccan meals. Hands, of course, are washed before and after the meals. Now, the sauce will need about a ½ an hour in which to take on the lovely brown color of this sauce over here, which I already have prepared. And you can see it really thickens down almost to a paste. It's absolutely delicious. Now, you'll recall I said that the lamb needed at least 1½ hours on top of the cooker, and that is precisely how long this other pot has been cooking. What a coincidence, the marvels of modern television. Here we go. Here's the other pot. There. And here we have this marvelous lamb, all beautiful and cooked. But the secret is to take it now and to brown it in the oven for a few minutes, in a good hot oven if you can. I'm going to just put it in there now in this pan and watch it very carefully. Oh, there we go. Now you've got to watch it really carefully because you don't want it to burn, of course, and you don't want the juices in the bottom of the pan to burn. You know, there's nothing better to end a meal than a good cup of coffee. I know people who have spent literally hundreds of dollars with all kinds of modern means of making coffee, but I've made some coffee over here in the good old ancient jug method. It's made all over the world. You take a jug and you pour boiling water over about 3 heaped tablespoons full of really freshly ground coffee. You mix it up and you schreck it, as the Germans say, put a little cold water on so that the grounds go to the bottom, or you can pass a spoon over it or stir it. And what I do is use a sieve, which is the safest way. Then you take, for a very special treat, a lovely brandy glass and very carefully warm it over the stove so that it takes the chill off of it. Into that, you pour a good jigger of Napoleon brandy. Now, Napoleon brandy seems to be the brandy that was made long after Napoleon died. Anyway, it's called Napoleon brandy. Into this, you pour your nice coffee, your good strong coffee, almost up to the brim. Then you put in 2 or 3 lumps of sugar, depending on how sweet you like it. Mix it up, stir it up very well. And then the topper is, you pour over this, over the bottom of the spoon, very gently, some very rich cream. You pour it over the bottom of the spoon so that it will float on top. 9 out of 10 times it doesn't work, but this time yes, it did. Isn't that marvelous? Then you lick the spoon, which is the best part of the whole dish, and then you proceed to drink the brandy. Oh, it's a great delight to sip the coffee and the sugar and the brandy through the cold cream. Here's to you. Well, there. Our Moroccan menu is just about complete. But first I have to take the lamb out of the oven And I want to warn you about something. Don't ever throw away the juices of the meat in which the meat has been cooking. No, this is very important. When the meat has been taken out, then what you do is put this big casserole back on the top of the stove and reduce that juice, taking out all of the water. And what is left is a really beautiful, rich sauce, like this here. You see? It's really marvelous. That is one of the great secrets of cooking. Never throw away those pan juices. Now, I'll just place it here on a plate. And then, I had somebody tell me once that you must never pick up anything with a fork except in your left hand. I don't know why, but it seems to work. Anyway, you don't drop it, as I often do. There we go. Now, to fix up our wonderful sauce here, you take 2 tablespoons full of honey. There's the honey, 2 tablespoons. Honey is the great sweetening power of all ancient cooking, and it's something that a lot of us should learn to use more. Into this, you put some powdered ginger. Ginger is another ancient condiment and really, really spices things up. You mix that all up together, and you put it around your roast like that. Put it in lovely globs or in a circle, however you want to do it, and you will find it is a delicious dish. There now, you'll find that sauce is really special. And then to make it even juicier, you might even take a little of this glorious pan gravy that we have and just put it over the roast like that. It makes it shiny and pretty and a compliment to the honeyed sauce. Now there is our beautiful roast. For the final luxury, one thing I forgot, but which is very important and very pretty, is to take some almonds, blanched almonds, which have been very slowly browned in butter, and just sprinkle them over the roast. There we go. Little on the sauce won't hurt, and you have a wonderful dish for a sweet tooth. Now, back to grease. At the beginning of the program, I put some rice on to boil, and it should be just about done about now. And this is the rice on which we're going to serve our cabbage rolls. There it is. It is beautifully and perfectly done. You see, by not peeking, you get this glorious rice. Now, what you do is you take about 2 ounces of butter, and you put it into the rice, put it right on top like that, and then with a fork, you fluff the rice up so that the butter goes all through. This way your rice stays separate. And you fluff it up so that it's all melted through. Take your lemon peel out if you want to, or leave it, and put it in like that so that it's all through there. Then to make the herb rice, you add about 2 tablespoons full of chopped parsley or chopped fresh green onions or chopped chives. I'm going to add that fresh green onion to it, mix it up. Then you take your parsley. The best way, by the way, to chop these is with a scissor, not a chopper. Just cut off pieces of parsley and pieces of onion. And there is your herb rice. Now we'll put that on a plate, and that is going to be the bed for our kaldomas, or our dolmades, as they call them in Greece. Spread it out. Always spread away from the center so that you make a good circle. There you have it. And now we will take out our cabbage dish, which is in the oven and should be just exactly ready. What a beauty that is. Now, with one of these marvelous little forks, you pick it up and you arrange your rolls in a pretty fashion around the center and the edge of the dish, and serve it up with a little more sprinkled parsley if you like, or however you want to do it. Well, there we have it. Now, once again, I beg of you not to throw away the juice in which things were cooked. I haven't taken all of these out, but you can see there is a lot of juice in there. Take a little corn flour, or corn starch as we call it, mix it with a little water, and on the stove very carefully stir it until it thickens, and put it all over your rice and your marvelous, wonderful little things here that are all wrapped up in cabbage leaves. Now has come the time when you have a chance to copy down the ingredients that were used in making the dishes today. Firstly, the dolmades. Well, here we have 1 large cabbage, 2 tablespoons of a cup and a half of long grain rice, but we use 2 tablespoons of it to blend with the milk, which we cooked for 40 minutes. Then you have half a pint of milk for the rice, and 8 ounces of minced pork, and 8 ounces of minced veal. 1 teaspoonful of salt, 5 separated eggs. Be sure to save the yolks because they come in very handy for mayonnaise or hollandaise sauce. You have 1 medium onion, grated fine, half a pint of beef stock, and 3 tablespoons of black treacle, which you put all over them. Half a teaspoonful of corn flour mixed with your final sauce to thicken it, and then to pour the whole thing over it. Now, to make the savory rice, we used 1/2 of a cup of the same, 1½ cups of the same long grain rice we used in the rolls. 3 cups of water, 2 ounces of butter, later on, chopped parsley, and the chopped spring onion or chives. Now for our Moroccan tagine. Here was the starter, was a great lovely roast of lamb, a leg of lamb. The sauce was composed of 8 ounces of raisins. There they are. 1 heaped tablespoonful of cinnamon. And in the pan with the lamb went 1 crushed garlic clove, 1 chopped onion, a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of that very expensive saffron, but it's really worth it, and 3 ounces of butter. That's our meal for today. That is it. Just about something from everywhere around the Mediterranean. Next time that you have a holiday in one of these countries, I really beg of you, don't be afraid of foreign food. Don't be afraid to sample the wonderful things that people have learned to make over the years, because that's the secret of food, tradition, and these are traditional foods. It won't be nearly so foreign to you once you've had a go at cooking it in your own home. Now, until we eat again, this is Vincent Price saying goodbye to you. And, oh, I forgot. You meant to eat it with your fingers. Well, let's see how that works. There it is. It's delicious.